Hey everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Irit. If you're new here, welcome. I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist based in Austria in Europe. And on my channel, I share all my watercolor and mixed media adventures, product reviews, opinions, and everything watercolor related. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and I would love for you to subscribe. So today I was going to kind of play with primary and maybe other interesting triads and just like exploring those mixes. If you want to see something like that, then leave a comment and let me know. But I find it very, very hard to do things that I'm not completely into and, just not really feeling the vibe. And so I decided instead to do something different. And I've been spending the last week with a dear, dear friend. And so I really haven't been in that creative state of mind, but mostly, just like traveling, showing my friend beautiful Austria, Vienna, and also where I live. I don't live in Vienna. I live in the Austrian countryside, a couple of hours away from Vienna. And I thought this would be just a really great opportunity to, first of all, do something that I'm just like, surrounded by. It's in my head at this moment, but also show you a few very, very important principles that I go by and that sometimes I feel it's a little bit harder to find people that paint like I paint in the watercolor world. I find if you are more familiar with mixed media artists or acrylic painters, I feel there is so much more room for abstract and just no rules, basically, whereas the watercolor world tends to be a lot more traditional. And so I just want to show you what you can do. I just want to hopefully inspire you to go with your more, let's say, authentic artist ways and not feel like you have to paint certain things in a certain way and use certain colors because, most of the people who are doing that, who are painting in watercolors or mixed media, but mostly watercolors, are doing that. That's the teachings that you can find, those are the techniques that you see. So I hope this will inspire you to let your imagination rule. And I'll try to talk less theoretically and more in practice what it means to me to paint this way. So what I'm painting is actually based on a photo that I took of my friend. We were in this beautiful museum and there was this huge window in the middle, and I took a picture of her next to that window with these glorious grand buildings of Vienna. And so I don't paint a lot of, cityscapes, buildings, architecture, but I was very inspired to do that. And one of the things that kind of kept me from painting such scenes was, first of all, I didn't think my sketching skills were good enough, but I'll get to that point a little bit later. And also, whenever I saw other people's paintings of like cityscapes, sometimes I really liked it if they were like very atmospheric or something, but most of the time, just the type of colors that exist naturally in these, buildings are not the colors that I love to paint with. If you've been here long enough, you know that I love pink, I love coral, and, Vienna apparently doesn't have a lot of pink buildings. So there's that. And as for the sketching skills, so I'm not saying, you don't need skills, you don't need to develop skills. I'm not saying that at all. What I am trying to say, not very eloquently, is that many times most of the times, like when I see cityscapes and sketches. I really like art that lives between finished painting, let's call them like that, and sketches. I really, really love sketches. Sometimes I find myself, when I go to an exhibition of famous artists, I find myself more drawn to their sketches than to the eventual work of art that they made based on that sketches. And here I actually started with my initial sketch and then decided, okay, this is a page I took from my little sketchbook. It has that fold in the middle. Maybe I should grab a piece of paper and try it again. And I actually prefer the initial sketch. So there's something about that looseness, about that unfinished look that really speaks to me personally. This is not a right or wrong issue. It's a personal taste issue. And so many times when I see these very beautiful, very skillfully made cityscapes with these gorgeously drawn, very architecturally, ornated buildings, I can appreciate the skill of it, but it doesn't speak to my soul, if that makes sense to you. I think if you're more drawn to abstract art and kind of unfinished look and sketches, I'm sure you understand what I mean. And so I feel that I can make paintings that I love, or like sketches of Vienna that I love, without being a highly skilled sketcher. That's how I feel. I feel this is a particular skill that I don't need to develop to make art that I like. And so I encourage you to think for yourself if maybe this is something that, you could still paint something the way that you love, even if, you don't know how to perfectly sketch, a palace. So that's one thing. Also, you can cheat. You can, I don't call it cheating, but you can use a light box and trace the buildings, the lines, and then, do with it whatever you want to do with it. So as long as it makes you happy, I really don't think it matters. I think you should do what you love and what you enjoy. That's all that matters, in my own opinion. So as you can see, I started with kind of trying to play with maybe a little bit realistic colors. And then I was like, why? That's exactly the things that I don't love about painting these cityscapes. I don't love being limited to the grays that these buildings are. I want a pop of pink on my paintings because I like to paint with pops of pinks. So I'm just going to put one on my building. Now, the dome happens to be also in reality this kind of turquoise color. I love the patina, rooftops of Vienna and obviously other places in the world. So that worked. But had I not liked that, I would feel very comfortable just painting, pink domes if that's what I felt like. And so again, I encourage you to do that. And if you think about the Impressionists and other movements like Fauvism, forgive me if I mispronounce that. I am self-taught and self-educated when it comes to art. So that was their thing. Their thing was color. I mean, look at, Monet works and like people like Pissarro and like Van Gogh. I mean, there's so many. They just went crazy with colors. Sorry, no pun intended, with poor Van Gogh. I mean, I just actually saw a piece made by him yesterday, and it's just, I find his art so tragic because of his life, and it's sad that, some of the world's greatest artists had to, it seems like that kind of, being a genius in one area had its own price to pay in other ways. So my point is that, if you find yourself not enjoying painting something, think why, and think about if there's a way you can change that. So if you actually want to paint your city or a landscape, but you're not drawn to the natural colors, you don't have to use them. So this is just me painting along, having the best time, splattering away. And I actually like this sketch and how it turned out. I like it better than what I'm going to do next. But the second one was also fun. And another way that you can kind of add to that sketchy feel is to add words and quotes. You know, you can also just document your travels and your life in this way, which many people do and do incredibly well. For me, it was just a great opportunity because I don't live in Vienna. I would love to, but I don't. So I don't walk around like that beautiful city is not a part of my daily life, is what I'm trying to say. I try to go there often, every, couple of months, a few times a year. Absolutely. I try to spend a weekend or spend the day because I love it so much, because I find it so inspiring and so, so beautiful. But also here, I used a photo, and at some point I had the photo on my phone. And then at some point I just switched it off because I was like, I don't need it. The essence of what I want to paint, that, general dome shape and that grand building, I have it in my head. And I don't need to know exactly where the arches were, how many there were. I don't need that information to make a painting that expresses what I want to express, that brings me joy, the process of painting it, and the finished result. There are many details that I don't need to know and I don't need to get right. And I remember I learned this about an artist, I think it was Turner, but I'm not even sure because this was years ago, that, he would just collect like a tree that he liked. So he would sketch it and paint it, and then he would just place it in different pictures. So even if, you see those beautiful landscapes and they tell you, this is the beach in Normandy or something, or this and this river, this and this town, that I can probably guarantee that there was, artistic choices made in order to create a more successful painting, a more visually appealing painting. And so all these things, even paintings that the style is very realistic, they aren't necessarily true to reality. Probably most cases they are not. And so don't be afraid to edit heavily, change things. And, when you think about it, especially if you're like documenting these things that have been painted by a gazillion people, a gazillion times, what is going to make your version different? What is going to make it are the choices that you make, the tools that you use, the brushes, the colors, your brush strokes, the style, other elements that you bring to it. That is what's going to make it special. And so I highly encourage you to explore these things and not be afraid and not feel limited by anything that you think you have to follow, any rules you have to follow, any colors you think you have to use. Because for me, if I painted this exact scene in a realistic way, using colors that are close to the real colors, I don't think I would enjoy it, and I don't think I would like the result. I like the photo. I can print the photo. I enjoy looking at the photo, but I wouldn't appreciate in any way a painting that looks like this photo. And so I hope I'm making my point clear. Now we're at the second version, and you can see also the sketching part. I find it, to my personal style, adding those sketchy lines with pencils or pastels, I find it extremely important to, the result. Just again, with that kind of sketchy look, those lines, personally, it makes me really, really happy. And, I will admit for a second there, I considered using a different color for the sky. But I love French ultramarine. That's what I'm using. Also a little bit of lavender, which is just French ultramarine mixed with white. And I had no desire to try and match my sky to the sky that day that I have on my picture. And I'm not saying, you know, you shouldn't, but I'm saying that it's completely okay and even wonderful to just use the colors you want. So if you want ultramarine skies in all of your paintings, if it serves the purpose, if it makes a better painting, if you love your painting more for that, even if you're painting, you know, a scene where the skies were obviously cerulean blue and not ultramarine, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. So your choices are exactly what is going to make your painting different and unique and speak to you. And so that's my personal philosophy. Now you'll see here with this other version, I like it as well. It's fun, but yeah, still I think I prefer that first sketch. So that is something, there is something about those initial sketches where you are kind of experimenting, but you also, I mean, you have a vague idea of what you want to do, but mostly you're like trying stuff out. Somehow to me at the end, that works better than when I have a kind of more formed idea of what I want to do. Like I as I'm painting the second painting, I'm actually more confident as I'm painting it. But when I look at the end result, I can't say which one of the two I like more. In certain ways, I like that initial sketch more. So that's interesting. And sometimes I find it frustrating. But then as long as I made something that made me happy, that's all that matters. And so I'm going to play a little bit of music for you because I'm going to, you know, live my life and hang out with my friend before she leaves and goes back to her country far, far away. And so I hope this was inspiring to you. I hope you found some, you know, gems or things that clicked for you, that gave you kind of permission to do things your way, even if most people do it differently. That's one of the most wonderful things about art, isn't it? That everyone does it a different way. And we, you know, remember the artists that, I mean, obviously were good, but also had their style, had their point of view, made their specific choices time after time and created a unique body of work that was them. And so I leave you with that. I wish you a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week. I regret to say that probably during the summer until September, I don't know how regularly I will be posting. For sure in August, I won't be able to post as regularly as I try to, which is every week. So I do apologize for that. My kids are on vacation very soon, and so they are the priority. And I still hope to make weekly videos, but if I don't, that's the reason, and I do apologize, but you know, summer. And so I wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon in another video. Take care. Bye-bye.